If you're serious about surviving when everything collapses, don't just watch. Subscribe now, because what you're about to learn could be the difference between life and death in the first 60 minutes of chaos. When disaster strikes, most people freeze. They stand there, phones in hand, watching the news, scrolling social media, waiting for someone to tell them what to do. And that hesitation, those precious minutes wasted in shock and denial, that's what kills them. Because in a real emergency, whether it's a natural disaster, a grid-down scenario, a chemical spill, or societal collapse, the first hour is absolutely critical. It's the golden window where your decisions determine whether you become a survivor or a statistic. The harsh reality is this: emergency services won't come for you immediately. In widespread disasters, you're on your own. Police, fire departments, paramedics, they're overwhelmed, understaffed, and dealing with thousands of other emergencies. You cannot depend on rescue. You must depend on yourself. Let's be brutally honest about what the first hour looks like. When catastrophe hits, your body floods with adrenaline. Your heart races, your vision narrows, your hands shake. This is your sympathetic nervous system activating the fight or flight response. But here's the problem: panic makes you stupid. Studies from disaster psychology show that in high-stress situations, cognitive function drops dramatically. Your ability to make rational decisions, remember training, and execute plans deteriorates rapidly. This is why trained professionals, military personnel, firefighters, paramedics, drill endlessly. They're programming their bodies to act automatically when their brains can't think clearly. You need that same programming. And it starts with understanding exactly what to do in that first critical hour. The very first thing you must do is assess the immediate threat. Not tomorrow's problems, not next week's food supply. Right now, what is actively trying to kill you? Is there fire, smoke, flooding, chemical contamination, armed violence, structural collapse? You have seconds to identify the danger and act. If you're indoors during an earthquake, get under a sturdy table or in a doorway immediately. If there's a chemical release, you need to know which direction the wind is blowing and move perpendicular to it, upwind if possible. If there's an active shooter, the protocol is run, hide, fight, in that order. These aren't hypothetical scenarios. These are real emergencies that happen every single day, and the people who survive are the ones who act decisively in those first moments. Once you've identified the immediate threat, you move to the next critical step: getting yourself and your loved ones to safety. This is where your pre-planning becomes everything. Do you have a rally point? Have you discussed with your family where to meet if you're separated during an emergency? After the 9/11 attacks, countless families were separated for hours or even days because they had no communication plan and no designated meeting location. During Hurricane Katrina, families were torn apart at evacuation centers and shelters, some never reuniting. You must establish rally points, primary and secondary, and everyone in your household needs to know them by heart. If you're at home when disaster strikes, your rally point might be your living room. If you're scattered across the city, maybe it's a specific park or landmark that everyone knows. And if that's compromised, you have a backup. This isn't paranoia, this is preparation. While you're moving to safety, you're simultaneously conducting a rapid personal assessment. Are you injured? Is anyone with you injured? You need to know this immediately because injuries change everything. A broken bone, a deep laceration, difficulty breathing. These require immediate attention. Here's where basic first aid knowledge becomes life-saving. Can you stop severe bleeding with direct pressure and a tourniquet? Do you know how to recognize the signs of shock? Pale skin, rapid pulse, confusion, cold extremities. Can you treat burns properly without making them worse? These skills aren't optional. The American Red Cross reports that in major disasters, professional medical help is often delayed by hours or even days. During the 2010 Haiti earthquake, many survivors died not from the initial collapse, but from treatable injuries that went untended in the critical first hours. You must be able to stabilize yourself and others. Keep a well-stocked first aid kit in multiple locations, your home, your car, your bug-out bag, and know how to use everything in it. A kit is useless if you don't have the training. Now, while you're assessing injuries and moving to safety, Your brain needs to shift into information gathering mode. What exactly is happening? How widespread is the disaster? What are the authorities saying? But here's the critical part. Don't waste time doom scrolling. You need actionable intelligence, not panic-inducing rumors. Turn on a battery-powered or hand-crank emergency radio. NOAA weather radio, AM/FM stations, emergency broadcast frequencies. These will give you official information. During the 2021 Texas power crisis, millions lost electricity and internet access. Those with emergency radios knew about warming centers, water distribution points, and safety alerts. Those without were isolated and uninformed. Your smartphone is useful, but it's also fragile and dependent on infrastructure that may already be failing. Always have backup communication methods. And when you're gathering information, look for 3 key things: the nature of the threat, its scope and duration, and official instructions or evacuation orders. Here's where many people make a fatal mistake. They assume everything will be back to normal soon. They wait, they hesitate, they think, "I'll just ride this out for a few hours." That mindset kills. During wildfires, people delay evacuation because they don't believe the fire will reach them. Then the winds shift, the flames accelerate, and suddenly they're trapped on roads choked with panicked evacuees. Or worse, they're surrounded by fire with no escape route. The 2018 Camp Fire in California moved so fast that people died in their cars trying to flee. They waited too long. In the first hour, you must make the hard decision. Do you shelter in place or do you evacuate? This decision is based on the information you've gathered, the nature of the threat, and your pre-existing plans. If authorities order evacuation, you go. Immediately. No packing non-essentials, no one more thing. You grab your bug-out bag, your family, your pets if possible, and you leave. Every minute you delay, the escape routes become more congested and more dangerous. But what if evacuation isn't possible or isn't the right choice? What if you're sheltering in place? Then the first hour is about fortifying your position and securing essential resources. Start with water. In a widespread emergency, water service can fail within hours due to power outages affecting pumps, contamination of supply lines, or infrastructure damage. Fill every container you have: bathtubs, sinks, pots, bottles, buckets. A standard bathtub holds about 40 gallons. That's enough drinking and sanitation water for one person for roughly 2 weeks if rationed carefully. But you need to do this immediately in that first hour, before pressure drops or contamination occurs. After Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico in 2017, many areas went months without running water. Those who filled containers in the first hours had a critical survival advantage. Next, secure your home. Lock all doors and windows. Close curtains and blinds. This serves multiple purposes. In a civil unrest scenario, you don't want opportunistic looters identifying targets. In a chemical or biological threat, you're creating a barrier. In severe weather, you're protecting against flying debris. If you have time and materials, reinforce entry points. Move heavy furniture against doors. Board windows if you're in a hurricane zone and didn't do it earlier. Though honestly, if you're boarding windows after the disaster starts, you've already failed to prepare adequately. The first hour is about working with what you have, where you are. Simultaneously, you need to account for your family members. Where is everyone? Are they safe? Can you contact them? This is where your communication plan activates. If cell networks are overloaded, which they will be, texts often get through when calls don't. Have predetermined check-in times. If disaster strikes, everyone texts the group at the top of every hour with your status and location. This reduces the number of messages clogging the network and gives everyone a clear expectation. If someone doesn't check in, you know immediately. During major disasters like earthquakes or terrorist attacks, cell networks become overwhelmed within minutes. On September 11th, it was nearly impossible to make calls in and around New York City, but texts had a better success rate. Plan for network failure. Consider alternative communication methods like CB radios, ham radios if you're licensed, or even prearranged signals. A white cloth in the window means we're safe. A red cloth means we need help. While you're accounting for family, don't forget pets and livestock. In a true survival scenario, your pets are part of your family, and frankly, they can also serve practical purposes. Dogs for security, chickens for eggs, goats for milk. If you're evacuating, take them if possible. Have carriers, leashes, and supplies ready. If you're sheltering in place, bring them inside, secure them in a safe area, and ensure they have water and food. After Hurricane Katrina, thousands of pets were abandoned or lost because evacuation plans didn't include them. Many people refused to evacuate without their animals and ended up trapped. Have a plan that includes every living creature you're responsible for. Now, let's talk about power. In the first hour, if the grid is down or you've lost electricity, you need to shift to backup systems immediately. This is why you have flashlights, lanterns, and batteries staged in multiple locations. Do not use candles if you can avoid it. They're a fire hazard, especially in emergencies where emergency services can't respond. LED lanterns and headlamps are safer and more efficient. If you have a generator, now is the time to fire it up, but do it safely. Outside, away from windows and doors to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. Every year, people die from running generators indoors during power outages. Don't be a statistic. If you have solar panels or a battery backup system, switch to those. Preserve your electronic device's battery life by turning off non-essential functions. You don't need Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or background apps running. Put your phone in low power mode and only use it for critical communication and information gathering. Food is another consideration in that first hour, though it's less immediately critical than water, safety, and information. However, if you're sheltering in place for an extended period, you want to start thinking strategically. What perishables do you have that need to be consumed first if power is out? If refrigeration fails, dairy, meat, and fresh produce will spoil quickly. Plan your meals over the next 24 to 48 hours to use those items first. After that, you shift to non-perishables, canned goods, dried foods, freeze-dried meals. But don't panic cook everything at once. Assess your situation. Estimate how long you'll be without power or resupply, and ration accordingly. The first hour is about taking inventory and making a plan, not consuming resources. One critical task that many people overlook in the first hour is documentation. If it's safe to do so, take photos and videos of damage to your property. This becomes essential for insurance claims later. After hurricanes, floods, or fires, proving the extent of damage can be difficult if you don't have immediate documentation. Obviously, your safety comes first, but if you have a few minutes and it's not dangerous, photograph damaged structures, destroyed belongings, and hazardous conditions. Store these photos in cloud storage if you have internet access or on multiple devices. Security is another first-hour priority that escalates quickly depending on the nature of the disaster. In a localized emergency like a house fire or medical crisis, security isn't a major concern. But in widespread disasters, especially those involving civil unrest, economic collapse, or prolonged infrastructure failure, security becomes paramount. In the first hour, you need to establish a defensive posture. Know who's in your home. Lock down access points. If you have firearms and you're trained in their use, have them accessible but secured away from children. Position yourself so you can monitor approaches to your home. If you're in an apartment, know your exits and choke points. In urban areas, civil disorder can erupt rapidly during disasters. After Hurricane Katrina, looting began within hours. During blackouts and riots, property crimes spike immediately. You must be prepared to defend yourself and your family, and that preparation starts in the first hour. Communication with neighbors can be invaluable, but it's also a risk assessment. Do you trust your neighbors? Have you built relationships with them before the disaster? In the first hour, a quick check with trusted neighbors can provide additional information, mutual aid, and security. Are you seeing this? Do you know what's happening? Do you need help? Can we work together? Community resilience is real and powerful, but be cautious about revealing your level of preparedness to people you don't trust. In a prolonged crisis, desperate people do desperate things. If neighbors know you have food, water, and supplies, you may become a target. Use discernment. As you move through the first hour, continuously reassess. Situations evolve rapidly in disasters. A small fire becomes a conflagration. A peaceful protest becomes a riot. A Category 1 hurricane intensifies to Category 4. Your plans must be flexible. Every 15 to 20 minutes, pause and reassess. Is the threat increasing or decreasing? Is my current location still safe? Do I need to change my plan? Has new information come in that changes the situation? This constant reassessment is how you stay ahead of the danger curve. Rigid plans get people killed. Adaptive thinking saves lives. Here's a harsh truth. In the first hour, you may have to make life or death decisions with incomplete information. Do you wait for rescue or self-evacuate? Do you help a stranger or prioritize your family? Do you share resources or hoard them? There are no easy answers, and moral philosophy becomes very real very quickly in survival situations. But here's my guidance. Your primary responsibility is to yourself and your immediate family. You cannot help others if you're dead or incapacitated. Secure your own situation first, then extend aid if you're able. This isn't selfishness, it's survival logic. Flight attendants tell you to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others for exactly this reason. Let's talk about children and vulnerable family members in the first hour. If you have kids, they're looking to you for cues on how to react. Children pick up on adult anxiety instantly. If you panic, they panic. If you're calm and decisive, they'll follow your lead. In that first hour, you need to project confidence even if you're terrified inside. Give children specific tasks appropriate to their age. Go get your emergency backpack. Hold your sister's hand, count to 10, and take deep breaths with me. These tasks give them a sense of control and purpose, reducing panic. For elderly family members or those with disabilities, you need pre-existing plans. How will you evacuate someone who uses a wheelchair? Do you have necessary medications accessible? Can they move quickly if needed? These aren't questions to answer during the disaster. You should have answered them months ago. But in the first hour, you execute those plans. Mental state management is critical and often overlooked. In the first hour, your brain is going to try to trick you. It's going to tell you this isn't real, it's not that bad, it'll be over soon. This is called normalcy bias, and it's one of the biggest killers in disasters. Your brain wants to return to the comfortable, predictable patterns of normal life, so it downplays threats and delays action. You must actively fight this. Accept the reality immediately. This is happening, it's serious, and you must act. The faster you accept this, the faster you can move through effective action steps. Conversely, some people experience acute panic, hyperventilation, inability to think or move, complete breakdown. If this happens to you or someone with you, you need grounding techniques. Focus on breathing. 4 seconds in, hold for 4, 4 seconds out, hold for 4. Focus on physical sensations. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear. These techniques bring the brain out of panic mode and back into functional thinking. As the first hour progresses and you've handled immediate safety, gathered information, secured resources, and stabilized your situation, you start thinking about the next 24 hours. What's your plan for tonight? Where will you sleep? Is your location defensible and safe for an extended period? Do you have enough food and water for the next day? What's your plan if the situation deteriorates further? This is where your pre-made plans and supplies pay off. If you've prepared properly, you're not scrambling, you're executing. You know where your supplies are, you know your evacuation routes, you know your rally points, and you know your responsibilities. One thing that separates survivors from victims is the ability to stay mission-focused despite emotional trauma. In the first hour, you may witness terrible things: injuries, death, destruction. Your home might be destroyed. You might lose possessions you've had your entire life. The emotional impact is real and severe. But in that first hour, you cannot afford to break down. Compartmentalize. Tell yourself, I will process this later. Right now, I survive. This sounds cold, but it's how you stay alive. There will be time for grief, for processing trauma, for recovery. But that time is not in the first hour of a disaster. In the first hour, you act. Let's address some specific scenarios to make this concrete. Imagine an EMP or cyber attack takes down the electrical grid. In the first hour, you won't know the full scope. Your power goes out. Your phone might still work on battery, but cellular networks are failing. Your car might not start if it's newer and relies on electronic systems. What do? First, assume it's widespread and prolonged. Don't wait to see if power comes back. Immediately fill water containers. Gather your family. Turn on your emergency radio for information. Secure your home. Inventory your supplies. Establish communication protocols with family members who might be away. Prepare for the fact that this could last days, weeks, or longer. Those who act decisively in that first hour will be weeks ahead of those who waited, or consider a pandemic. We've all seen how this plays out now. The first hour of realizing a serious contagious disease is spreading might not be when the first case appears, but when you personally recognize the threat. Maybe you see news of exponential growth, or maybe you see runs on grocery stores beginning. In that first hour, what do? You immediately stock up on essentials before panic buying empty stores. You secure N95 masks if you don't already have them. You pull children out of school. You cancel non-essential activities. You implement hygiene protocols in your home. You prepare to isolate for an extended period. The people who acted in the first hours of COVID-19 awareness in early 2020 avoided the chaos that followed. The people who waited found empty shelves and overwhelmed hospitals. What about a financial collapse or hyperinflation scenario? The first hour is when you realize your currency is becoming worthless, banks are failing, or electronic payment systems are down. What do? Withdraw as much cash as possible while ATMs still work. Convert currency to tangible assets: food, fuel, precious metals, barter goods. Secure your home against potential civil unrest that often follows economic collapse. Fill gas tanks. Stock up on essentials with whatever purchasing power you have left. The first hour determines whether you preserve your wealth or lose everything. In every scenario, the principle is the same. Recognize the threat immediately, act decisively, secure your position, gather information, and execute your pre-made plans. Hesitation costs lives. Denial costs lives. Waiting for someone else to save you costs lives. You are your own first responder, and that first hour is when you prove whether your preparation was real or just theoretical. Here's what most people get wrong. They think survival is about having the right gear or the biggest stockpile. That helps, absolutely. But survival is fundamentally about mindset and decision-making. In the first hour, your gear is only as good as your ability to use it under stress. Your stockpile is only as good as your plan to defend and ration it. Your knowledge is only as good as your ability to apply it when you're terrified and exhausted. This is why training matters. This is why you run drills with your family. This is why you practice skills before you need them. When disaster strikes, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. As we approach the end of that critical first hour, you should have accomplished several key objectives. You've identified and moved away from immediate threats. You've accounted for your family members and vulnerable dependents. You've assessed injuries and provided basic first aid. You've gathered actionable information about the nature and scope of the disaster. You've secured essential resources, particularly water. You've fortified your shelter-in-place location or executed evacuation. You've established communication protocols. You've begun tactical planning for the next 24 hours. You've maintained mental discipline and avoided panic. If you've done these things, you're not just surviving. You're setting yourself up to thrive while others are still in shock. The transition from the first hour into the second and third is about maintaining momentum and discipline. Don't let the adrenaline crash paralyze you. Keep working your plan. Keep reassessing. Keep adapting. Survival isn't a single moment of heroic action. It's a sustained series of good decisions and disciplined execution. The first hour sets the foundation. The hours, days, and weeks that follow build on that foundation. One final point. After you've stabilized your immediate situation, if it's safe and you're able, consider how you can assist others. Once your family is secure, your resources are protected, and your position is defensible, extending help to neighbors, community members, or strangers in need is both morally right and strategically smart. Building alliances and goodwill in a disaster can create mutual aid networks that increase everyone's chances of survival. But again, you cannot help others until you've secured your own position first. What you've learned here isn't theory. This is based on after-action reports from real disasters, survival psychology research, emergency management protocols, and the hard-won lessons of people who've lived through catastrophic events. The first hour determines everything. Will you freeze or will you act? Will you panic or will you execute? Will you become a victim or a survivor? That choice is yours, and it's made in those first 60 minutes. Prepare now, train now, plan now. Because when disaster comes, and it will come, there's no time to learn. There's only time to act. If you want to go deeper into specific disaster scenarios, tactical planning, or advanced survival skills, you'll find in the pinned comment some guides and documents that can take your preparedness to the next level. Check them out when you're ready. Subscribe, hit that like button, and share this with someone who needs to understand what those first 60 minutes really demand. Because the difference between life and death isn't luck. It's preparation and decisive action.